Hello and welcome to another episode of the Toronto Dog Whisperer, the channel that helps you help your dog. So in today's video, this is part 7. This is the last video in the series that I have made with Jax, and this is some real-time exercises that I did with Jax. Now all these exercises are secondary, meaning that the higher priority exercises were the focus of part 1 through 6, and part 7 is just more secondary exercises where I take Jax through some of the common issues that he had before that were triggers, meaning that they would trigger his anxiety, they would trigger his fear, and they would trigger aggressive type symptoms that got him into trouble in the first place. So some of those included the knocking of the door, food falling on the floor, toys, and how other dogs would play with toys, and then he would get aggressive and anxious and nervous. And basically the exercise that I took him through to get rid of them. The important part here is that priorities need to be on the exercises that are addressing the most serious symptoms of anxiety, fear, and nervousness. That's why we focused on establishing leadership, establishing trust, building Jax's confidence, getting him used to walking loose leash, understanding that I was there to protect him, and then looking at some of the secondary exercises which you're going to see today. These types of exercises are definitely something that you can try at home, and these are also really good exercises to address symptoms of other problems. So even though these are focused on Jax, and Jax has fear and anxiety issues, these particular symptoms are common to a lot of problems. So knocking on the door, getting overly excited, being opportunistic when food falls on the floor. And if there's other dogs around and food falls on the floor and those two dogs think that that food is fair game, there's a chance for them to fight over that food and compete with each other. But when Jax understands that that food is mine and the opportunity is there for him to grab it, he's not going to see the other dogs around him as competition. And that's why he doesn't experience any type of aggressive behavior, any fear, or any anxiety. He understands that he'll be given food when I choose for him to have food, but he's not going to take it. And it's the same type of idea with toys. And these are very common problems for a lot of dogs. When your dog is really focused in on toys and views that toy as theirs, if another dog comes near that toy, there's a chance that those two dogs are going to have some sort of altercation or a fight or whatever because they're competing with each other. But when the dogs understand that the toys are not theirs, that they are mine or yours to give them to play with, they don't really care if there's another dog playing with toys around them, and they can all have fun together. Okay, so we're going to be taking Jax through an exercise with the vacuum just to show him that there's nothing to be afraid of. So the first stage is just getting them used to the vacuum itself. I do have him on a leash because I don't want him to run away. I want him to confront his fears. And I'm going to first get him used to some of the more mild sounds. And you can see he's a little bit nervous, but he's not afraid. And there's a big difference between being nervous and afraid. And this is one of those small steps that you take when you're confronting the fear and anxiety. So I want to get him used to all the different steps. So if he sees the vacuum, it's not a trigger for him to get nervous or anxious. I'm going to actually go plug it in. There you go. Look, he just sat down on his own. So let's see here. Let's plug it in. Okay. So now this is really taking the exercise to the next level. And just want to see how he reacts. And there you go. It's not completely 100% there yet. He's still a little bit anxious, but not nearly as bad as before, where it was like full-blown fear. So over time, the more practice he has with the vacuum, the less afraid he's going to be. And overcoming that one fear is another step in the right direction in terms of the overall health of his mental state when it comes to letting go of all the fear and anxiety. He basically realized that he experienced that and nothing bad happened. So A+. Well, yeah, I'll give you an A+. Hey, pup? What do you think? Did you do good? You did good. You did really good. Hey, puppy? All right, on to the next exercise. Now that that's done, we are going to tackle the door knocking, which is a very common problem for a lot of dogs. This used to really set Jax off, and I have some footage of that when I met him for the first time.
If I'm taking him up the ravine.
So again, have him on leash just because I want him to confront the sound of the door knocking without getting excited, nervous, anxious, or fearful. Okay, so here we go. Now, that's an extreme knock. I don't have a doorbell, but if I had a doorbell, I would do the exact same thing. Obviously, you see he didn't react, my dogs didn't react, and he's completely calm. He's a tiny, tiny bit nervous, but not nearly as anxious or nervous as he was like a few days ago. So I'm actually going to go outside and do this because I know what you guys are going to say. You're going to say, well, you know, he sees that you're actually knocking on the door. That's okay. I don't mind. It's a gradual approach where you start with, you know, baby steps and then you move on to the more realistic situation. Okay. So, let's get rid of this. Okay, sit down. So what I'm doing here is just setting the expectation that just because he hears the door knock, there's no reason to get excited, there's no reason to get nervous, there's no reason to get anxious. So do that. And let's see, I'm going to move the camera down here. This is going to be a little bit more risque because you might knock into it, but maybe put it on the stool. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to leave and knock and then come back in. If he reacts or has a bit of a bark or whatever, it's okay. You have to allow them to make mistakes. It's part of the process. It's just a practice thing. Go outside. There you go. He's a little bit curious. That's normal. He's a little bit excited. That's normal as well. But there's no reaction. There's no barking. There's no anxiety. There's no fear. He's just like, okay, that's no big deal. Somebody's knocking at the door. I'm supposed to stay calm, and there's no reason for anything else bad to happen. So he experiences it, and he realizes nothing bad is going to happen, and away you go. So another thing was toys. So we are going to see how he reacts to lots and lots of toys all over the floor. So there we go. We got a ball, we got a squeaky toy, we got a rope thingy, we got a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm just gonna throw them all out on the floor. Go get some more. So you can see Mosley really likes his toys, and Mosley's gonna play and do a whole lot of stuff, and away you go. So he has to understand that even though there's lots of toys on the floor, these are all my toys, and I give them these toys to play with, but they're not going to compete or have a fight over them because they're mine. And at the end of the day, it's the same exercise with food. I can put a toy right in front of my dog. He's not going to take it because he knows it's my toy, not his. And I'm going to give it to him for him to play with. So Mosley's going to play. Kenzie's going to play a bit. Throw some toys over here. Throw some toys over there. Now, he's not playing himself, but that's okay. It's a first step. Everything is gradual. Rome was not conquered in a day, or built in a day, or whatever the case may be. So Mosley's playing with his toy. I'm going to take the leash off because I trust him. There we go. I'm going to throw this for Mosley. There you go. Mosley's playing with his toy, and he's totally relaxed. He's not anxious or nervous. There's no competition. I can toss the balls around. There we go. And this is what caused the problem before, where one of his families. Okay, so how'd it go? So one of the family brought their dog over, and they were playing with toys, and then the dogs fought. Well, dogs fight because they see the toys as theirs. This is my toy. Even when the people describe it, they say, "Oh, this is Jax's toy," or "This is, my dog's toy. This is your dog's toy." Whatever. The reality is you have to teach your dogs that the toys aren't theirs. The toys are yours, and you give it to them to play with. So when they see each other playing with toys, it's not a big deal. They're not going to compete. They're not going to be aggressive towards each other because there's no issue in terms of ownership. So there we go. That's the puppy. That's a good boy. Hi, Cans. Hi. Oh, yeah, I love you too. Thank you, baby. Yeah, you like playing with toys too. Here, look. You can play with the toy. You want to play with the toy? Hey, Jax. Here you go, bub. Here you go. Here you go. Look at how cute you are. Hey, puppy. You want the toy? Yay! So you can see, like, I threw that, and Mosley went after it, and he didn't even bat an eyelash. Sorry if I'm too close to the camera. So that's the toy thing. Let's move on to another issue that he had, and that is with food falling on the floor. And this is, again, very similar to, whoops, almost tripped the fell there. This is very similar to toys or anything else. The food is mine until I give it to them to eat. So if I am cooking or doing anything and a piece of food falls on the floor, they're not going to compete over it and see themselves as rivals. They're going to understand that the food is mine. So even if I drop it on the floor, they're not going to go after it. So let's get a floor view of me working. So this is some treats that I make them. This is a piece of beef. This is very powerful, and I'm just going to drop it. You can see Kenzie's interested in it, or maybe you can't see. Sit. And I'm just going to drop it on the floor. So if he goes for it, I just stand in between, just to let him know that that's my piece of food. Oi. Sit down. Okay. And I can walk away. And you want to supervise this type of activity when you do it for the first time, just to teach them the proper expectations. You can see, well, maybe you can't see because he's a little bit behind the bowl, so I'm just going to move the camera a bit. Hopefully the lighting's okay. There you go. The food is on the floor. Sit down. So the food is on the floor. They're not going to touch it. They're not going to compete over it. They're not going to fight over it. It's not going to be a source of anxiety in terms of the competition between the two dogs, because the dogs know that that food is mine until I give it to them. And I can walk away and go to the other room, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're curious about more of the specific techniques, you can watch my counter surfing video in which I go into a little bit more depth. So because he's being good, and Kenzie's being good, even though I dropped it on the floor. No. Good boy. See how he looks at me? That's what I want. And you don't want to take it away from them in terms of moving your hand. You want it to be available to them, and they choose not to take it themselves. I don't know if Kenzie's in the shot or not. This is probably not the best angle, but either way, it's there. He did well. Okay, there you go. So because they were good, I gave them the food because the food is mine, and they know not to take it if it drops on the floor. Therefore, you're not going to avoid a fight when there's multiple dogs. So I'm just going to, maybe we should try it again. You want to try it again? Let's try it again. So this is very difficult for a dog. So I'm cooking away. Oops. So this is just a practice thing. You just got to practice like dropping food on the floor, and they're not going to go after it. Kenzie's around the corner. She's looking right at me. There you go, look. I can totally walk away, and he's staring at me. He's looking right into my eyes because he knows the food on the floor is my food, not his. And this is what is going to prevent dogs from fighting and competing over resources that may become available. Let's say you're eating and you drop something on the floor. Let's say you're, cooking and something falls on the floor. If the dogs are competing for it, they're going to fight. So just practice this, and it doesn't take long. There you go. There you go. And because they were good, I give it to them. But it's mine to give, not theirs to take. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you enjoyed this series with Jax. Please leave a comment if you have a dog with fear and anxiety issues and you would like some help. Every single dog is different. They exhibit different types of behaviors. They have different symptoms for their fear and anxiety, and one size doesn't fit all. This is just an example. This series was a demonstration of the techniques that I use to address Jax's specific problems, but every dog is a little bit different. But the fundamentals and the strategy are the same. So until next time, if you love your dog, take them for a walk. Take care. And his cut. Audio sync. Audio sync. So the primary focus of Jax's can I say anymore? Cut out that Don't really care if another dog. How to address your dogs for the love of God.